Happy Friday, and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan and my bowling partner, Steve Sipple.
It's not a bowling shirt, Sean. It is 100% not a bowling shirt.
Did you join like a noon league where you go over to what's the one? Sun Valley and like a lunch league?
You got Sun Valley or Parkway or Hollywood, Madson's. Can't forget Madson's. It's not a bowling shirt. You could wear it bowling. It would look good. It looks stylish.
That's a Super Saver, right?
Yeah, it's like a $7 shirt.
Beautiful.
I like it. I happen to like this one. I also have an orange one that I would only wear for like effect to freak you out. But I saw this shirt worn at which grandchild's graduation? At a graduation. I saw a guy in this shirt at graduation.
Where'd you buy it again?
Super Saver.
Super Saver.
It was in a bin.
North 27 Super Saver?
Yeah. There's actually a story there that I'm not going to get into. But yeah.
Very impressive.
I like it. I legitimately like the shirt. Looks good.
I'm the one going on vacation. By the way, I am going on vacation this weekend to Florida. And
you could use this shirt.
I will say, did I set up the jinx again of a bad breaking news story? Because the last two vacations I've been on, Evan Cooper resigned on July 5th at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday.
Or was that July 4th?
It was the 5th.
Okay.
Because I was in Oshkosh.
Yeah, we have problems with facts. I do. So
I know because I was in Oshkosh, Nebraska on July 4th, and we were driving up the mountains in Colorado. I couldn't even touch my phone.
So it's July 5th.
5th on a Friday at like 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And then my last year's vacation, after we had just had a wonderful interview with Trev Alberts on this very show a week earlier, Trev Alberts left Nebraska for Texas A&M when I was out of town last March.
Sean, you never know, you just never know.
So I don't want to jinx anything, but we're 2 for 2 on major breaking news stories happening when I'm out of town.
And the last real vacation I took I was at the Journal-Star, and that's when Moose left. Call it what you will. When Moose departed, I was gone.
You went to the NBA game?
Yeah, that was like a 2-day vacation.
Thing is, I still work. I write my stuff on vacation. It's not like I'm on vacation, but you're not on vacation. Like
I wasn't. I was writing. I was writing an incredible amount when Moose left.
Yeah, that was different times. But all right, before we get into the opening headlines here of HuskerOnline Headlines, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Look, you might have somebody coming off a surgery that needs some assistance. You might have a family member, a good friend, somebody that you want to be there for, but you can't. Give StayHome.Care a call. They are there for you to help you with your loved ones in need, and they can do simple chores like providing a ride to a doctor's appointment, grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, meal prep, anything, assistance with any outing. Call them. Learn more about their services at 402-205-2233. Again, that's 402-205-2233. That's StayHome.Care. Your home, our care, StayHome.Care. All right, let's get into it. Headline number 1, Nebraska sets the April 26th spring game weekend. And I'm not even sure you call it a spring game weekend because it's a spring weekend in general. They're going to feature a lot of different things on that weekend. And let's just go through the rundown here. They're going to offer tours of the Osborne Legacy Complex from 8 to noon. That would be $50 for a 1-hour tour of that facility and get a chance to see all those things. And look, that's people want to see that thing. And that's how they have to do it, because I think you couldn't just open it up to the public at all times. So they're going to
sticking you with the 50 spot. It's kind of sizable, but I could see it being successful.
It will fill up whatever they have. I'm sure they'll fill. I mean, they priced it probably at that point because they know they can, and they want it to fill up. They don't want, if you did $10 or something, it'd be full in like 2 minutes.
You're the businessman in this discussion. Keep
Husker.
going.
Now this might be our favorite part, Sip. The Husker Food Truck Festival will take place in the East Stadium Plaza. Local food truck vendors featuring various food and non-alcohol beverage options from 8 to 2.
Okay.
This actually might be my favorite part. The Husker equipment sale is going to be from 9 to 1. So they're going to have Free admission if you purchase a ticket to the games and events. It's inside the Hawks Championship Center. Clearance and discounted team merchandise from both Nebraska Athletics equipment, including jerseys and helmets, and discounted merchandise from local retailers. Additional surplus marketing, promotional items, and collectibles. Additional details on inventory will be shared at a later date. And
the imagination runs wild, Sean. I just wonder, like, I think of you and Kit. Like, with Kit, what if there's a high hurdle available? You could show Kit how to run the high hurdles. You can buy a high hurdle.
Yeah, you just wonder, like, what are they going to sell? Like,
yeah, like shot puts. Like, I mean, it could.
Blocking sleds.
Maybe. I mean,
well, the thing is, like, how else do you do it?
Right.
I mean,
well, apparel's a big thing, like helmets. Don't you think helmets would be somewhat popular for guys to put in their man cave? Like, I actually got a real helmet.
I'm guessing they'll be pretty beat up, whatever they're giving away.
Wouldn't that enhance the impact of it? Like, this was worn by a Husker, like Rex Burkhead or something. I don't know.
Just imagine though, like, how much stuff that just accumulates there, and it's worth. I'm sure Dannon's like, this is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, why aren't we just selling it? And it's kind of like putting stuff in your grandma's basement. You just keep putting stuff down there, and
this is stuff that people would want.
No
not stuff out of your grandma's.
But I'm just saying, like, that's the analogy I'm using, because like you just keep putting things in this room,
right? And
to a point, you're like, well, what are we going to do with all this stuff?
Yeah, in fact, Dannon sort of said that in so many words on his last radio show, that they just have so much stuff that he used the word purge. I mean, sometimes you just need a purge, you know.
I just wonder if there'll be any historic memorabilia.
What's that?
Any historic memorabilia?
Well, yeah, go and see.
Because I know, like, somebody once told me, like, there were just, like, underneath the East Stadium, there was this, like, storage of boxes, and there's just a box of, like, Orange Bowl watches.
Okay, see, there you go. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing if you could get an Orange Bowl watch? I'm serious.
From like the 80s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I bet there'll be excellent stuff, even if it's just like a jacket that you could buy for your dad, right? I mean, it's not necessarily Sean Callahan, you'd be wearing it, but you could buy it.
It will go quick though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Adrian Martinez held his garage sale in Papillion, and they had
or was it Adrian? Yeah.
Come on,
Sipple. I'm doing the name.
Okay, Sipple was on a all-time name mess up heater last show.
Yeah, so now I'm really.
Phil Snow was Phil Simpson. UCF was USF.
Then the previous show was Corey. We were calling the strength coach Corey Cooper.
Corey Campbell.
It's Corey Campbell. So I'm kind of like in off-season form right now.
You're the one on vacation. But okay, we'll have the Husker football games. Tickets for $10, $20 for West Club. That will begin at 2:00. And there's going to be a 7-on-7 football game, skills contest, and other competitions featuring the football team, kind of like a Pro Bowl style deal. So for us, that will probably be the main part of the day.
Do we cover it? That's one thing I've been meaning to ask you. Do we cover it like we cover the spring game? How do you do this, Sean? This is all very new.
Well, a lot of it will be, what will the interview access be like?
Right. I don't know that yet.
I think you can make this some general observations, but yeah, I mean, and like we would normally do a post game show for the spring game.
Okay, now let's
do we do a post? I think we still do a post show, like a live show, because our users like the live show.
I'm calling it Spring Replacement Game Weekend. Spring Game Replacement Weekend. So it's kind of funny if you think about it. Really, we do a show that day to recap the 7-on-7 that we see. I mean, I don't know, Sean. It's very
well. I just seeing guys live. Yeah. I mean, we don't even know what the screen. Yeah, there's a lot there. There's going to be a 7-on-7 flag football game between Midland's women's team and a UNL All-Star intramural team.
Did you see, Sean? Do you ever zoom out a little bit? It's hard for you to do that because your world moves incredibly fast. Mine moves slower, or I allow mine to move slower. When you zoom out, this is incredible. When you just think about what you've covered on spring game day for years and years. I look at this like it's just part of a world that's gotten so weird that I don't even know what's going on half the time. Like the greater world has gotten weird. You'd agree, right? College football is getting really weird. And to the point where I just read the other day that North Carolina considers itself the 33rd NFL team. That's how they're characterizing the Bill Belichick program. We're the 33rd NFL team.
As you would say, what the hell?
I just look at this for people that are complaining, stop. It's just part of the weirdness that is impacted so many facets of life.
Now, the normal part of the day, you'll get a soccer game against Wyoming at 4:30.
4:30.
And a volleyball match against Kansas at 6:30.
Kansas, which was a third seed in the tournament. This could be a good match.
And that will be in the Devaney Center. And there's still, I think, is talk that Nebraska will play a match in Ord. They just have not released those details. You can play 2 spring matches, but certainly Danny Busboom's going to draw 8,000 or 9,000 in Devaney
Pack house
for that match. And then, I'd imagine that soccer, they get good crowds there already because over at Hibner Stadium there.
I like this lineup kind of. I don't know. You're going to get mixed reactions. And I guess you're hoping that it draws, 40,000 people over there, all told. I don't know. I don't know what it'll draw. Nobody knows.
I'll put it at 25.
Okay.
Well, and then I think 40 is a stretch. I really do. I do. I mean, I just look at what Fan Day numbers are. I mean, and then you have to pay for this. You don't have to pay for Fan Day. I believe are kids not free? Yeah, youth are $1. Excuse me. So youth are $1, adults are $10, club seats are $20.
So here we are. This is it.
All right. Well, it should be fun. All right. Before we get to headline number 2, again, we are brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're the title sponsor of HuskerOnline Headlines. Give them a call at 402-205-2233. Learn more about the great services they have to offer. Also, brought to you by Public Rec. I'm going out of town on vacation. I want to be comfortable when I travel. I want to be comfortable on vacation. Public Rec is what you need to check out. They offer everything from pants, shorts, quarter zips, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, sweatshirts, athletic men's leisure wear, premium athletic men's leisure wear at Public Rec. You're going to look good. You're going to feel comfortable. It will wash well. It will wear well. It won't fit like a shirt from Super Saver. Sorry, Simple. I had to go there.
Okay.
And we've got a great promo at Husker Online right now with Public Rec. If you've never tried out their product, go to publicrec.com. Use the promo code Husker at checkout, and they're going to give you 20% off your order. Again, that's promo code Husker at publicrec.com, and that's going to get you 20% off your order. Thanks again to Public Rec for sponsoring us here in Husker Online Headlines. Okay, headline number 2. Nebraska basketball faces another must-win game against Iowa, who just is coming off a loss against Michigan State. But Nebraska, if they lose this game to Iowa, there's a chance they could be out of the Big Ten tournament. And, that would be a disaster.
I don't know that I would characterize it as a disaster.
Well, considering they were like a firm 9 seed at one point.
Can I sell this to you?
Yes.
This is my Sunday column. I don't know if you like it when I blow my Sunday column on air, but I'm going to. Why is it a disaster when there's virtually, would you agree, there's virtually no external pressure? There's no pressure from media on Fred, on the program. There's no pressure from the AD, no pressure from boosters, no real pressure from fans. So why would it be a disaster if they don't make the Big Ten?
Because of how close they were to getting to the NCAA tournament. They were firmly in.
It's disappointing. See, now I make distinctions, Sean. Disappointing, but it's a disaster if Purdue doesn't make it in. It's a disaster if Michigan State doesn't make it in. It's a disaster if Wisconsin, all these places that really, really care about basketball, it's a disaster. Nebraska, do you agree? Is there any external pressure on Nebraska at all?
I would just say that the fans,
there's none.
I would say the fan support. I mean, Nebraska is a top 10 national attendance leader. Like, how many top 10 national? I mean, it's just.
If Nebraska doesn't make the Big Ten tournament, is there any pressure on Fred?
They'd probably still be a top 10 attendance.
Right.
Like, that's.
Thank you, Sean. You helped write my column.
That's got to be like the most confusing thing. Like when Iowa comes here on Sunday, you're going to think it's like Ty Lue and Eric Strickland, and
it's right.
Like
you're going to think it's Duke, North Carolina.
Because I watched the game at Ohio State. They're similar to Nebraska, and there were 6,000 fans there, maybe.
God, you helped me write the column. Thank you so much for being level-headed. I mean that.
But the fan element to me is what really kind of throws you off, because like people still are very much behind
this.
You
know, you got to the bottom of it, though. You got to the bottom of it. Thank you. If they don't make the Big Ten tournament, that place next year will still be packed.
Now, I will say this. That year where they played kind of like where they had Nebraska had to take that long break and then make up all those games at PBA, with COVID.
Right.
It was the year after 2020. I think the next year after COVID.
Okay.
And they had to kind of like take a long break, and they had to schedule games like all over the map. The crowds were way down that year.
They were way down that year.
And
COVID's year. Weird.
Season ticket renewals were the low. I mean, like that's how we were able to elevate our seats like that we have because of that year, because there was that much turnover. I don't see that much turnover still. I think people like to go.
Right. They like to go. It's a good experience. Now, here's the second part of my column, Sean. There is internal pressure. The kids obviously are feeling it a little bit. The players, the coach is feeling it, but that's internal. So what I believe is going to happen because of my question to you is, why can't Nebraska just cut loose now? Just cut loose. There's really no pressure. So just beat Iowa and then let it roll into the Big Ten tournament. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. Just go win 3 games. You can do it. They can win 3. Bryce is healthy and rolling. Burke's going to start hitting shots. Okay. He's 1 for 18 since he came off the injury, the ankle injury. He's not going to keep, he's going to start making shots. It's inevitable. They're healthy. They're still playing hard. I'm pretty optimistic going into this. Why can't they just say, hey guys, let's just cut loose. Come on. Why can't they do that?
No, I don't disagree. I think they're limited with their scoring options. And
a little bit.
I think Juwan Gary, if he's not attacking the rim and kind of getting that, layup that he makes,
he just scored 114 points, Sean.
But like in the games they had lost.
Right. They scored 46 against Michigan. That's fair.
Like when Juwan Gary can't get to the rim and make kind of those shots around the rim, and teams really
I agree
zone in on Bryce, and Burke's playing like he's playing, they're a 46-point team.
Yeah, it's a heavy load for Bryce, I will say.
And Andrew Morgan has been inconsistent. He's played well at times, and sometimes, and Burke has been extremely inconsistent, and Wooster's been inconsistent, and Asijan has been inconsistent. I mean, you go down the line. I mean, Sam Hoiberg has been better for most of this last month than a lot of times Wooster and Asijan, which should be happening.
If you look at Asijan's stats, you'll be amazed. He's only 9 3-pointers short of what Tominaga made last year. Asijan.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah, that's amazing. Asijan's been okay, but no, you're right. There's been a lot of inconsistent play, and it's reflective in the fact that they're 7-12 in the Big Ten. They lost 6 straight, then they had a nice winning streak. Now they've lost 5 of 6. It's been a very volatile season, but I keep saying it. When it's volatile, that means it can swing back. Well, this is about the time I expect it to swing back in a positive direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get in the NCAA tournament. And then you're probably looking at Dayton, right? You're probably looking at 11 seed if they get in. And we'll just see, this becomes a matchup discussion at that point.
And at that point, it's kind of a hassle. I mean, like,
because
just getting Robin to Dayton in the next game and figuring, I mean,
and you have that sort of uncomfortable discussion of, could Nebraska get its first NCAA tournament win in a play-in game? And there's some people that maintain that wouldn't count.
Oh, and that's talk radio gold.
It's gold.
Especially like if you're like Josh Peterson and John Bishop, our friends. I mean, that's just like a whole show. because they're kind of looked at as the crane station, so they can
it's not just them,
but in general, like if you're a talk show host, like at the Ticket or the Zone, I mean that's a hot button deal.
My stance on it is it's 100%. It would be the first.
It would be a win.
It'd be the first NCAA tournament win because
it's part of the tournament.
Yeah, you're eligible to win the championship if you're part of the field of 68. You're eligible to win the championship. Say no more. Say no more.
All right. Before we take it, headline number 3, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233. Learn more about what they have to offer. We're also brought to you by Green Chef. And, you've heard us talk all about HelloFresh. Well, Green Chef is one of their sister partners and companies, and they take it up a level. They offer high quality, healthy, organic meals, and you pick what you want. You're trying to, some of the things look really good when you order meals, but you don't know how healthy they are. With Green Chef, you are going to eat high quality, healthy meals, and you can pick them to the way you want to fit your diet needs and what you're looking for. They send it right to your doorstep every week. You can do 2 meals for 2 people, 3 meals for 4 people, whatever the number of people you're ordering for, they have the combination that's going to fit you. And right now, we are going to give you a great deal with Husker Online. Go to greenchef.com/HuskerFree. Use that code HuskerFree, and you'll get started with free salads for 2 months, plus 50% off your first box. Again, go to greenchef.com/HuskerFree. Use the promo code HuskerFree, and you'll get started with free salads for 2 months and 50% off your first box. Thanks again to Green Chef for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, number 3. It's the final week of mat drills. What's next for Nebraska football? As I'll say this, Sip. It's been an extremely quiet winter. About as quiet of a winter as I can recall in terms of injury scuttlebutt, off the field issues, videos, nuggets about in workouts.
Oh yeah, that part's really quieted down.
I mean, it's been, and I don't know if that's by design or if that's just how it's played out.
I imagine it's by design. The way it's been noisy, if you will, is you still get a lot of transfer portal news. I mean, we were covering that.
Well, I'm talking about the players that are in the workouts right now.
Right. Not a lot.
I mean, the transfer portal stuff was January.
Right. So what you're not getting is a lot of hype coming from inside, emanating from the inside. You're not hearing a lot.
And we've heard like Dan Key has been good. Cortez Mills has been a dude.
Yeah.
Marquise Watson-Trent has been a dude. You hear those things, but those are, to me, that's like obvious stuff.
Yeah. So, we're on the cusp of Matt Rule on Tuesday, meeting with the media with a couple players. We'll get a little, I imagine there might be a little news there. There might be some
roster news,
maybe some injury news, but yeah, and I think quiet is good. I don't think you certainly don't want, you don't want trouble. You don't want the arrest. It's very, very, almost said it. I would say telling. I think it's telling that there hasn't been off the field trouble. We went through a lot of years of covering a lot of that, Sean. If you think about it over the years, we covered a lot. Hey, Riley's years, we covered some of that.
DUIs.
Bo's years, we covered a lot of it.
Possession of marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, just things like you don't hear any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Disputes.
Not much.
Fights.
Yeah. Not much.
Arrests.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Unless there's always the possibility that it's just not getting covered in this world,
Yeah. I said the other day, like back in the day, you and Parker Gabriel would look over a sheet every day at the Journal-Star.
So what would happen, just so people understand how the hot dog's made to a certain degree. I don't know that they still do this at the Journal-Star. I don't know that they don't. But when we were there, Parker and I both on our desk every morning would be the arrests, all of the arrests in Lincoln from the previous night. So, sometimes it'd be 5 sheets and you just pour through it. And lo and behold, there are often names on there. And then Parker, the beat writer, would have to go to work. He would go over to oftentimes, Sean, he would go over to the police reporter, and they would call the duty commander and, verify what happened. And there you go. Then Parker would kind of take the ball from there. And if it was big enough, the columnist would have to weigh in. So that's how it worked.
But yeah, and is that happening at this level? I don't know.
I don't know. We're not doing that. We don't have a police. I don't know how we'd even make that work. One of us would have to go over to the police department every day and get the arrest report at night. You want to do that?
One like
you want to go over there about
one example where I remember like Rink Mass when he had the incident where he got beat up on his scooter. The guy that did the action was a former NFL player that was a high level player. Nobody in the local media recognized
on it. Yeah, that can be an issue too, that you just don't recognize the name.
You get younger as reporters get hired, they might not recognize that this guy is actually a bigger name public figure than Rink Mass.
Right.
So Rink Mass is a story, but the person who committed that crime was a bigger name person.
Right.
And that's where being old like us
pays off.
Some of these things
doesn't pay off very often. But so yeah, what are you going to be looking for when spring ball starts? What's the storyline right off the top of your head?
The transfers. I mean, the receivers, Dana Holgerson, and kind of his pace.
Yeah,
because I expect the Dana Holgerson pace to really pick up. He had to, think about where it was at in November, and he's just like, I told all the guys, give me your best stuff, and I take it all. And I said, man, we got too much stuff here.
He said, I'm not guaranteeing I'm using it.
And that's not going to be happening now.
No.
Like Dana Holgerson's going to be putting his direction of things on the offense that he's been working on, where I think last season he had to kind of work with everyone's notes.
I agree. I'm kind of like, this is the early stages of what I think will be a budding, pretty big story, the Heinrich Harburg story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested. I'll be watching. I said, did I get it out? Interested? I don't think
that counts.
Did that count? Okay. I'll be watching
Cooper.
I'll be watching the Heinrich Harburg story very carefully because I think it's very compelling. I mean, you got to watch the quarterback, Sean. And I think you really don't you have a level of interest in the backup race? Dylan Raiola is the quarterback. Who's the backup? Is that going to be Marcos Davila? Is that going to be Jalen Gramstad? Is that going to be TJ Lateef? Who is it?
Yeah, I mean I think as the year progresses, it could change.
Yeah,
I would imagine Gramstad would have an advantage early because he knows football and he's been around. But as Davila gets going and as Lateef gets going,
right.
Where's it at that point?
You wonder about, just skipping around a little bit, about like Jamarian Parker. How did he report? What's he look like? Is he ready? They might need him, right?
They're going to need another running back. And is that Ives? I think Mekhi Nelson is a name to watch.
How about Kenneth Williams? Not so much. Mekhi Nelson.
I think Mekhi Nelson's the one. If I was like, that's the one that could make a move to number 2. That's my prediction.
Okay. So if he did, Emmett Johnson, Mekhi Nelson, Quentin Ives, you better get Jamarian Parker in there.
Connor Booth, I've heard, has looked good.
But he's coming in hurt, right?
Yeah, I don't know where he's at in that recovery. And I don't know what the surgery was in November that he had to have.
That's what we'll find out from Matt Rule on Tuesday. You mentioned Cortez Mills. You're hearing a lot about Cortez Mills.
I mean, he was arguably one of the best players at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio on offense. So it's not a surprise that he's looking the part early on. Where's Ja'Cory Barney at too? When you start to add all these other guys in, does he still hold the line of where he was at? I mean, the competition for him will be a lot different than it was a year ago.
Yep. That's good. That's good. I'm interested. Oh God, Sean, is that 2? I said it again. Where is Demetrius Bell? Is he ready to roll? Because he flashed last spring. That was a guy that I was excited to watch.
His window seems small though. It's got to be probably like this spring to show the next move. Because in this 105 world, you don't get the 5-year window anymore.
Unless you want it.
unless they want you to.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll so they'll have next
We didn't
week.
talk anything about defense. The thing you're watching pretty close, I think, is the defensive line, and try to get a feel for their confidence level in that. I don't know. I mean, you just lost so much up front. You lost so much. So there's guys like Cam Lenhart Jr. now. Judy's a senior.
Keona Davis
is a sophomore. I mean, baby, it's time. I mean, you got to roll now. You're a junior.
Was told that David Hoofkin is over 300 pounds now.
Oh, wonder what that looks like. Because when we saw him in Houston in the last summer, what was he, like 240?
Well, I think 255.
Okay, 255. Now he's 300
with a washboard on his stomach, though. I mean,
oh, that's got to look like a freak.
The thing is, I've heard a lot of people think that he's maybe a better offensive tackle than a defensive lineman.
There's still that talk.
Well, I think his traits would transfer better with the way he gets his hand. I mean, he's got one of the largest wingspans they've ever recorded. I mean,
he's athletic.
He's big. He's athletic. So I don't know. And they don't have a lot of tackles on this roster.
That's a name. Again, the spring it's compelling for that sort of reason. David Hoofkin. What does that look like?
Hoofkin.
Yeah. He's 300.
Yeah. He's over 300 now.
Do people understand? If you follow recruiting closely, when you broke that story last summer, what a lot of the intrigue was, he's so athletic for a big man. 255. Now he's 300. I try to get him on the field, right?
Yeah, that's what spring in development's going to be for guys like that. But we will have, by the way, next week a full taped Husker Online show previewing spring football.
Good.
So
yeah, we don't need
we don't need to blow the script here on headline 3.
Okay.
All right. Before we dig into headline 4, and you're going to lead off headline 4.
Oh, yes.
But before we do that, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you and your loved ones. If you are coming off a surgery, or a loved one coming off a surgery, and you need help, or you just have someone that you want to be there for, but you can't, they can provide you support, whether it's daily tasks like laundry, meal prep, a ride to a doctor's appointment, grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, you name it. Learn about what they can offer you, your friends, or your loved ones at 402-205-2233. Your home, our care, StayHome.Care. Thanks again to StayHome.Care. But what is headline 4?
Sean, you wrote a book.
I did.
Now, this is your second major book.
Second major book. So I did the 100 things Nebraska fans should know and do before they die.
Excellent. It was. I commend you.
And that was 2013 when that came out.
Okay.
And I'll give you a little backstory on this book. So when Scott Frost was hired in 2018, Triumph Publishing, which is one of the largest sports publishing book companies in the country, they had done similar books to like Jim Harbaugh taking over Michigan and Urban Meyer coming back to Ohio State, or going to Ohio State. And, you write this like great book kind of telling you the story of turning the program around. And they envisioned that book for Nebraska, because in 2018, we all envisioned that book. Mm-hmm. And so we had a title and everything set in place. Scott Frost and the rebirth of Nebraska, or No Fear of Failure, Scott Frost and the rebirth of Nebraska football. Well, as you know, that book never got off the ground. I can remember in 2018, after the Michigan loss, I emailed the book company. We were talking. I go, yeah, probably not going to be able to write this book for 2019. And then, here they got off to a great start in 2019, and they fell apart, went 5-7. I go, well, we're not going to be able to write this book next. So that book just kept getting kicked down the road.
I will tell you this. I didn't know any of that.
And I had elite notes and stuff that I was keeping for that book. And I was able to use a lot of it in my Scott Frost chapter. So the new book title that we're doing is called The Program, Nebraska, a curated history of the Cornhuskers. And it's a series that they're going to do. And they've done it in the NFL with the Packers. They call those the franchise.
Okay.
They've done it with Alabama They've done it with the Yankees and the Red Sox, but I'm doing the Nebraska. I did the Nebraska version of the book. So I broke down the program in different sectors. The coaches. So I did different, long form chapters on coaches: Devaney, Osborne, Solich, Pelini, Frost. And just
you chose those.
I chose those. Yeah, like I didn't really think it made sense to go like do Jumbo Steam. I don't think you would have.
Mike Riley.
Yeah, so I wrote I loved how the chapters turned out. I interviewed Frank Solich. I interviewed Tom Osborne for 3 hours.
Yeah, this is where I want to interject. I looked on while you were doing this, and this was was it 2 summers ago?
Yeah, not this last summer, but the summer when Matt Rule first took over.
I was amazed. I don't mind telling the listeners, Sean did so many interviews, and you didn't necessarily have to. You could have gotten stuff written by others, stuff maybe you've written in the past. Instead, you did all of these fresh interviews with some of the biggest names in Nebraska football history. I was amazed you were able to do it. I mean, it took a lot of organization and just a lot of old-fashioned elbow grease. So the book, and I guess at this point I'm helping sell it, is a lot of fresh stuff that people won't know, or maybe stuff that they had an idea of but had long forgotten, and now when it reappears, they'll be like, oh yeah, and here's Jim Walden talking about this. Here's Mike Devaney talking about it. Bob's son. I know Tom Osborne. Here's Frank Solich talk. You got an interview with Frank. There's who else? Who else did you?
So I'll go. I interviewed Barney Cotton, and we hit on a lot of things with him because he coached with Bo. He played for Tom, and he coached for Frank. So Barney had some great insights. C.J. Zimmer. I have a Colorado chapter on that rivalry. I interviewed Dave Pilati, the historian of Colorado football. Frank Solich. Guy Ingles was maybe one of the more under the radar guys I talked to. The former Husker wide receiver from Omaha.
Knows a lot.
Played for Devaney, and he was a coach for Osborne, and so he had unreal insight. Jamie Cole. We have a chapter on Sam Foltz, and we relived that week in his relationship with the Foltzes and him making that phone call to the Foltz family and just everything that they went through. Jason Peter, Jerry Murtaugh, Jim Rose was excellent. Jim has been around a lot, growing up in Lincoln, play-by-play guy, historian,
eloquent.
Jim Walden, who a lot of our younger listeners don't remember him, but he played for Devaney at Wyoming. He coached for Devaney at Nebraska, and he coached against Osborne at Iowa State.
Verbose. He's he likes
funny.
To talk.
He said that he gives Osborne a hard time because he gave him his one bad loss.
Yeah, well, Jim's really funny.
Because Iowa State was like one of the only like real bad losses Osborne. Where they were like a huge favorite and they lost.
Yeah, Jim Walden was Iowa State's head coach, Washington State's head coach, but he was an assistant for Devaney. That's why you talked to him. Right?
Jimmy Burrow, who played for Devaney, knows Osborne, coached for Frank. So unbelievable insight on a lot of different things. Joe Gans, with his insight on coaching for Bo, playing
one of the better interviews that we've ever encountered. Joe Gans.
John Papuchis. I spoke with John Papuchis at length.
Wow.
Mark Moravec gave me a little bit on Mike Rozier. They were backfield mates.
Wow.
He's works for a Chief Construction. Is based out of Grand Island for Chief Construction now. Marvin Sanders, Mike Devaney at length for multiple interviews. Rick Kaczynski, Ron Brown, Sam Hahn. We talked about Foltz, and then over 3 hours of interviews with Tom Osborne, Tony Davis, and Zach Taylor.
Wow, that's remarkable. And it'll be in a book that comes out again. Say it, Sean. Comes out
in July. And look, I had a lot of Frost interviews I had done, that we did never published, and things from that era. So, and some of that's in there too. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together.
And the reason we're talking about it now is because
we announced the release of it this week.
Okay.
And it will be everywhere. I mean, Triumph Publishing, the book will be at anywhere you can buy a book in the state. They'll have the book. And
well, I'm really proud of you. I'm serious. That's not it. I know what an undertaking that was for you, because it's not like you stopped your life to do it.
Still did my job at the same.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you still handled your family. I mean, I couldn't believe what you were doing. Now it was hard. I know it was hard.
and look, as an author,
There
like
was pressure. I could hear it in your voice often.
I think people don't understand. Like, yeah, there's people like Joe Kesnowski or somebody big time when they do a book.
Poznansky. This was your one.
But like a big time name like that, when they
Poznansky,
get a huge, like, where they can just make that their full-time job,
They
like,
get an advance.
and we'll sell over 10,000 copies of this book. It will be a successful book, but it's a different, like you can't like stop your life to do
No, and
this.
I can remember literally the pressure I heard in your voice. That was a hard summer.
Worked a lot of I worked every weekend that summer.
It was a hard summer. I mean, I kind of lived it through you, and I was like, wow, I don't know how you did it. Really.
People have asked you, why have you never done a book?
Because that would be the third job. I have a radio job in the morning, and I have this job, and I can't take three.
And I know you well enough to know your style as a writer.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit your schedule.
No, I'm a little careful, pretty careful. So not you're not. Some people just work faster than others. You could also just say you work slow, Sipple. I don't know. I don't think I do. When I need to ramrod a column, I can ramrod it. I mean,
my strength in this book was just getting people on the phone. I mean, I had great success of tracking people down and getting them to talk. And
you did.
If you collect, 30 hours of interviews, you got a book.
You got a book, but it's not that simple, because you got to narrow it down. You have to pick the good stuff, which can be sort of taxing. You have to be discerning in what you put in the book. You just can't put everything in there. You want to put the very best stuff. And you have to cull through a lot. I know you did.
I'm trying to remember. It's like 75, 80,000 words.
Yeah. The book is very handsome, and the foreword's by Tom, right?
Tom, yep.
Tom Osborne,
dedicated to teammates. He wrote the foreword.
It's good to have his name on that book along with yours.
No, and I thought about it like this. I mean, how many people now are going to get Tom Osborne for 3 hours?
You got him for 3 hours.
2 different sessions, yeah.
But some of that is just your willingness. I hate to keep praising you, and this will be the last bit of praise. Your willingness to sit down with him for 3 hours.
And for me, like, I've never been able to interview Tom one-on-one, let alone for that length, and then use the knowledge of what I've collected in 25 years to be able to ask him what I want.
Wow.
Like, we don't get that with Matt Rule.
Not yet.
I mean, where you can sit, I mean, like, you
don't. No, so you sat down with a legendary figure, and Tom is a very good interview. Is very, well, he's very eloquent, and he's willing to share a lot, which is I've always been thankful to Tom.
He weighed in on Frost. I mean, he gave his, I hadn't seen like that quote from him, what he said about the Frost era and what happened. And
that's a good example.
One thing I was interested about Tom was recap how you got to Nebraska and just, he was a graduate student and he just showed up to Bob Devaney's office.
Yeah. And I think they made him
a dorm supervisor.
He did a good job.
And he impressed Devaney with his diligence, and all of a sudden he became a GA.
Yep. And it took off.
And then it just took off from there. But yeah,
you said something to me one time that, and I knew it, but again, this is the value of the book, that he called plays for 5 national title teams. He called all the plays. And you don't think of it because you forget about the Devaney years a little bit with Tom. He was the offensive play caller. Not many people can say they called plays for 5 national
from 69 to 97. And Guy Ingles brought this up. He goes, think about this, Sean. He called every play at Nebraska, every play.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. To see, that's good. That's the kind of thing that would draw people into a book, and keep them reading.
And he gave like a real passionate quote, Guy Ingles too. He's like, just think about what Osborne did. Man, there ain't no players there. There ain't no players around Nebraska, and he figured out how to win when you didn't have like California, Texas. You don't have the players here.
He eventually got them.
No, I'm saying locally.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
where you can just build off like your neighboring play. Like
Right.
you have, like he figured out a way to win with what he had, not just win, but dominate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Sean, we're not sitting here if it was not for Osborne. I try to tell the younger radio people and journalists that don't respect him enough. And they'll say kind of snide things sometimes. I'm like, you understand that you don't have your job if it's not for Osborne. If Osborne didn't take this program to those heights, you can dispute this if you want. It's my contention that we wouldn't be sitting here if he didn't enhance this brand like he did. Like enhance it. I mean, he created it. I mean, Devaney started it, but I mean, if it doesn't continue under Osborne, then it's not going to be nearly the same.
Well, and this Devaney's willing to recognize like talent on the staff. Like Monty Kiffin was his defensive coordinator. Osborne was his offensive coordinator. And to understand and reckon, I mean, those guys were in their 20s and they were calling the plays for a veteran in Devaney.
Yeah, Devaney. There was a genius there, and there was a genius with Tom. And Tom's genius kind of grows as time goes on, as nobody's been able to replicate it at all. And what we saw with Tom was an incredible, like just this incredible leader. He held things together so well. If people think it was perfect under him, like the staff was perfect, if everything was going well all the time, no, it wasn't. He held things together so well because he was such a charismatic and intelligent leader. And he's rare. He's just rare.
And he knew everyone's.
We didn't necessarily know how rare he was.
He knew everyone's name too on a team when you had like 200 players. And
oh yeah.
He would sit in the freshman locker room, the lowest of the low, at the desk in the lobby, just to learn and memorize every player's name.
That's real too. There's a kid named Tom Nelson that I went to high school with who was just a low-level walk-on, and he tells the story. Tom Nelson was a quarterback at Columbus during my era. He was a grade ahead of me, but walked on at Nebraska, and he tells the story of walking by Osborne and Osborne saying, "Hi, Tom." It's Tom Nelson. "Hi, Tom." And Tom was freaked out. Like, Tom Osborne knows my name.
No, my dad was a walk-on, never played a down, never dressed in a real game. 3 years here. We were in the 80s at a high school football game, and Osborne was there, and he's like, "Hi, Pat." And,
Jeez, that's remarkable.
And you can't even find his name, my dad's name, in anything.
That's Tom.
Like he knew, but think about when that happens, how hard you go for that guy.
100. I mean, he took it to a level that, again, I just say it's why we're sitting here.
And that's why no player badmouths him ever.
You don't hear it.
You don't ever.
You might hear a little bit in private. When you're a head coach and you're a leader of his magnitude, you're going to anger some people. So you hear occasionally a little bit like off the record type stuff, but no, you don't hear much of it.
All right. Final headline again are brought to you by StayHome.Care. Check them out at their website. That's StayHome.Care, not .com. It's .care at 402-205-2233. Give them a call. Learn more about all the different services they can offer for you and your family. But let's hit on a few odds and ends. Baseball this weekend, back at it. No Mason McConaughey. That will be something to watch. Nebraska will play Washington to open Big Ten conference play at Haymarket Park.
What time?
So these games will take place Saturday at 1-4 and Sunday at 12 noon.
Okay. Big Ten baseball begins on Saturday
against Washington. I mean, it feels like a non-conference weekend.
It's not, though. Yeah, the McConaughey injury was the big news. Was the big news of the week for baseball. I called that a significant. I don't like to say setback yet because we'll see how they respond. Like Will Walsh, the left-hander, probably replaces him in the starting lineup.
And then Jackson Brockett's back in, and Ty Horn.
Yeah,
so those are your three starters. So the big weekend for Will Bolt's team to get things on track. Nebraska wins basketball playing. They won a couple games.
They're in the quarterfinals now.
As we're taping, and they play UCLA. But I think Amy Williams' team, there was never, to me, a doubt they weren't going to make it. But Now it's a matter of where they get seated.
Yep.
But Britt Prince being back has been big.
Yep. She had 17 points against Illinois. This weekend for you will be spent getting ready and then leaving for Florida.
We're going. Yep. And I might, if I can convince my wife, I want to go watch a spring training game.
Okay. What game?
Because we're staying in Palm Beach, and the Astros and the Nationals both headquartered there. And the guy said it's like a 15-minute drive from our hotel to go.
Okay. You should go. Can't you just go over there by yourself?
Yeah, maybe miss the shopping with them and go to the game alone.
Just send the gals.
I've always wanted to see a spring training setting.
Yeah. Of course you do.
What's like.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it will be too big of a freak show. Like I think the Dodgers would be in Arizona. I think like the Cubs and the Cardinals are that way. I think the Yankees and the Red Sox, like those teams for spring training, it's probably a zoo. But I would imagine if you went to a Washington Nationals spring training, it's a little bit more manageable.
Sounds like something you should. I think that'd be very relaxing, especially if it's a nice day. This is idle chit chat, by the way.
Spring training, though, in general, if you were like in the media and they just sent you to Florida or Arizona for a month, how great would that be?
If you're married, it's a little rough, but yeah, it'd be fine.
Lane Grindle, with the Brewers, like they have like a condo or an apartment that he stays in, and his family will come down and stay with him for bits and pieces of the.
That sounds pretty idyllic. That'd be fun. What else? Idle chit chat. What else?
Idle chit. We're not taking Jake Sorensen's script here.
Odds and ends. Odds
and ends. But yeah, not as much going on. We'll hear from Matt Rule Tuesday, and then a few players.
Mm-hmm.
Stewart started this week. Josh Stewart as the GM. Not a lot of real intel other than we know he's in place, but I do expect, kind of a reset up in that department.
I think the news out of that will be how much he's making. That'll tell you a little bit about importance. Will that number be in the is he $1 million employee?
And who do they put around him?
I mean, $1 million annually.
Oh yeah. That's what these jobs are, 800 to $1 million range. But, what do they do around him? Because you get the sense that, Sean Patton's already moved to a different role. Vince Ginta, I think will, not be in his current role because they're resetting that whole department. Ryan Callahan has moved on. So a lot of that department and how it has been operated will completely change.
The recruiting department.
And I think in general, there are going to be a lot of cuts up there because of what's going on right now.
Sure. What do you mean what's going on right now?
The house settlement and the money.
Okay. That
athletic departments everywhere are going to have cuts, and they're going to be trimming a lot of positions nationally everywhere.
Is there any way to avoid those cuts?
Well, you got to pay the players.
Right. Wow. Okay. So I keep saying it. So much of Rule's job this offseason is getting all these people on the same page, getting the messages to be coherent and consistent. And it's a lot of people. It's seven. I mean, just at the very minimum, 7 new assistant coaches since November, right? Basically, what you laid out is a whole new recruiting department,
a whole new scouting, personnel, recruiting operation, which is now more of a transactional deal.
Yeah, and I don't think people understand. I feel like I botched a column last week when I said this. It almost feels like a reset, right? But you can't really afford a reset, right? You don't just say, those first 2 years, we were just kind of getting the feel. We're going. Can't really do that, right?
But you
the fan base isn't going to expect that. What if Rule comes out if they struggle and say, well, we kind of had to reset everything? I don't know that the fans want to hear that.
But you think about, they've already the entire recruiting department has changed a lot since Rule first got here.
I know. A lot.
Omar Hale's gone. CJ Cavavo's gone. Mike Wallace gone.
Yeah.
Patton, Ginta. I mean, you go down the line of
you just whipped off
Ryan Callahan.
6.
Those are all 6-figure positions.
That 6 guys gone since he's been here. It's significant.
And then you bring in a general manager.
Right. And I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I mean, I think he made changes that needed to be made. But I always think about the conversations we've had at Nebraska over the years, and so much of it was, man, that stability's big. Stability. You get continuity. We always used to talk about, remember, I always used to talk about continuity. Not a lot of stability and continuity right now. Right?
No, it's just a different game. I mean, it's changing with how you recruit. The old-fashioned recruiting weekend is not the old-fashioned recruiting weekend. The visitor weekend where you invite every in-state kid that has an opportunity to maybe play college football.
The spring game weekend, which it used to be a huge recruiting event, right?
Yeah.
Not now.
So it's just different. And I think we all have to get a grasp of it.
Well, that's where we come in. I think it's really, really important for us to continue to try to put it all in perspective as it's happening. I mean, in real time. And like I said earlier in the show, I mean, the spring game replacement weekend, I just never would have dreamed 5 years ago this is what we'd be looking at.
Garage sale weekend.
Just 5 years ago.
Saturday morning garage show.
And
garage sale, sorry.
Yeah, right. You just figure it's always going to be the same until it's not, right? And then the conversation is going to continue to evolve because it's going to evolve into OTAs, and there won't even be a spring game replacement weekend, right? This might be the only one. Am I wrong?
I think they'll still do some kind of spring festival type deal.
What if there's no spring per se, though? Spring football season, right? Because there could be a situation where there's really no spring.
Couldn't you just fan day in general, like how it's in August? It always felt kind of like a rush.
Am I misleading anybody here by saying there might not even be a spring football season down the line?
Oh no, you're still doing workouts, drills, and things,
right? But it's not the calendar won't be the same.
Don't know that. I mean, I like right now in June they do those twice a week practices where they can't have a football, but they line up and do walkthroughs and install. So they're doing a lot now. They're still going to do. They can't just get rid of it altogether.
Will there be a situation? We're just thinking out loud where Matt Rule announces our spring practice is going to start March 26th and end April 26th. Will that be next year?
The rules committee's got to decide that, what the calendar is going to be. But when I think about spring in August, there's 5 major scrimmages, 3 in the spring, 2 in August. Those 5 scrimmages are your most important practices of the year.
Are those going to still happen?
We don't know. I mean, I have to think you're going to have a scrimmage.
I think so.
You have to. You have to. I mean, you just can't not scrimmage.
I think.
But it's a matter of they don't want people to see it. That's the other part. They don't want people seeing their guys to poach them.
Can they have Sean Callahan see him though? You're not poaching anybody. You're just writing about it.
Yeah, but they don't trust us probably. No, but what I was getting at is
great.
Could we see fan day just move to the spring?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I get the August one, but why not just do it in the spring then?
Could. Okay, when you say Matt might not want us to cover it, it's not because he doesn't trust you or me. I think, or whoever. I think it's you're writing about players that could be poached, right? And people are reading about them.
And
like
people
Kai Nelson flashes, like you think he might. Kansas State might see something like that.
And they might have $200,000 just sitting there and say, hey, we got $200,000 for you. Come on down here.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, we'll be talking about this for a long time.
Love it.
But Sipple, we'll have a tape show that will run this upcoming week previewing spring football. So log on, check us out. If you're not a member of HuskerOnline.com, get your first week for $1 at HuskerOnline.com. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off here for Husker Online Headlines.